Okay, guys, so now we're going to talk about writing a t-test results section if you have insignificant results. Okay, and you're going to hear me say this a lot, guys, in this little lecture. Just remember, we just want the absolute facts. Okay, don't do too much talking. Um, that's one of the number one things you guys mess up on is you do too much talking in your results sections. And you're going to hear me say this a lot during this little lecture. Nobody wants to hear you talk, okay? Not in a scientific results section, okay? This is not you texting your friends. This is not you writing an Instagram post. This is not anything. This is scientific writing, okay? And so nobody wants to hear you do a lot of talking. And so I'm going to kind of talk through this now. And let me go on and say this while I'm thinking about it. You know, there's some of you guys that are watching these videos, and I think you're trying to watch Netflix on the side or text your friends or work on other work or hang out outside, which I totally get. But here's the deal. I've put a lot of work into these, so please don't, if please don't email me later and ask me where the answers are to this stuff. It really is exhausting. Okay. I've put a lot of work into this, and all you guys have to do is, stop the videos, pause them, go back, find the stuff. Okay. I've had several emails. I've had some emails like, well, where do I find this answer? And I can go right to a place in the video and say, I said this literally 5 times within the space of like a minute and a half. Okay. So please, if you're watching Netflix, pause it. If you're trying to text your friends, tell them you get right back to them, whatever. Or if you don't want to, just pause the video and come back another time. You're not using your time efficiently. So just go on and focus on what we're talking about. So what's the purpose of a results section? The purpose of a results section is basically it's there to give you the numerical statistical data that is resulting from the methods or from the research that you did. Okay. It's really simple. It sits between kind of the methods section, like what you did, and then the discussion section, which that's really the only place where you talk about what you think or what it means. Okay. So resist the urge in the results section to do a lot of talking. It's supposed to be boring. It's supposed to be dry. It's supposed to be just the facts. This is scientific writing, okay? It's short and to the point. A lot of you guys are still operating off this concept of like a word count or something like that. You're coming out of like 10th grade high school, 11th grade high school, whatever, where it's like, well, how long does this need to be? How many words does this have to be? Guys, look, it needs to be just conveying the information it's supposed to be conveyed. But if you don't do it, you're going to get downgraded. So it can be short, but it has to do the job. Okay. Most likely 3 to 5 sentences maximum. Nobody wants to hear you talk more than necessary. Believe it or not, nobody wants to hear you speak more than is necessary. So don't do that. And I especially don't want to hear you do a lot of talking in April and May. Let me give you some advice, at least as far as this assignment's concerned, guys. Let me give you some advice. In my experience, generally when people are doing a lot of talking on assignments like this, you're probably going to get yourself into bigger trouble because you're going to start talking about stuff you have no idea what you're talking about. So don't do that. Keep it simple, keep it to the point, and get out and move on and get out of there. Okay, seriously. So just keep it simple. And a real quick 8-second review, and this is specifically about t-tests. Remember, when you're using a t-test, you've done that to compare the statistical means of 2 groups. If it's 2, it's a t-test, okay? Anything else, like if it's 3 groups, it's an ANOVA, or if you're trying to relate one group of numerical data to a completely different group of numerical data, that's correlation. But when you're comparing 2 groups and you're looking at one common output, that's a t-test, okay? Let's give you an example here. What if an instructor wanted to know whether her students basically got any smarter about exercise physiology from the start of the semester to the end? I actually do this in special pops, okay? I do something like this. I give them a pre-test at the beginning of the semester, and then I give them a post-test to see what they've learned. And so, this instructor might give them a test on day 1, and kind of calculate these average test scores for the whole class. And then at the very end of the semester, she's going to give them the same test again. And she's again going to calculate the average test score for the whole class. Okay. So again, think about this real quick. Quick review. What kind of analysis? Now, you already know it's a t-test because I told you. But if you don't have some kind of inkling of what kind of analysis this is going to be, you're in kind of a little bit of trouble, and you need to go back and review, okay? Because if you're seeing this before the exam, which I hope some of you are, because this is going to be released to you guys, I guess on Thursday, no matter what, to be honest with you, for a lot of you guys, you can be doing this now, okay? And so this can help you review. So if you don't know, you need to review this right now. Yes, it's a type of t-test, but you need to know what type of t-test. This is not that hard, okay? So have in your mind what kind of t-test this is. We're going to talk about it here in about 6 seconds, okay? Okay, so this first part of the results section, this is the first part of the first sentence. It definitely has to be there, okay? You need to include basically what kind of t-test you use. So, for purposes of this class, it's coming down to either a paired or an independent t-test. Right? Those are the two basic ones we talked about. And you're also telling what you used it to analyze. And believe it or not, you can do this in one sentence. Really? Well, what about, don't we need to make, no. Well, do we need to say, no. Guys, less is more, okay? Don't go doing a lot of talking. Now, let me be clear. It needs to be a sentence, okay? You can't be putting a bunch of bullet points down or something, okay? Yeah, it needs to be a sentence, okay? It can't just be like 2 or 3 words and that's it, guys. You have to put together a coherent sentence. I know you know how to do that, okay? Some of you don't do that because you're just wanting to move on to other things, and that's cool, okay? So here's an example of what the first sentence in a results section has to be. And remember, we talked about this scenario where she's looking at exercise physiology knowledge, okay, pre-test, post-test. So here's an example. A paired t-test was performed. You can, well, say performed, to determine whether there was any change in overall knowledge about exercise physiology from the beginning of the semester to the end. Okay, so this is an example. This is an example. This is not, this is an example with using a paired t-test. Now, if you don't use a paired t-test, then you're not going to use this. So guys, some of y'all are like, oh, the example, that must be the answer for everything. Well, that's not the answer to how do I fill up my car? That's not the answer to an exercise physiology question. This is an example, okay? You can't just copy and paste. Okay, you actually have to think a little bit. So this first part in the bracket has to be there. This tells the reader what the statistical analysis we used, was. Okay, and this second part with the arrows, that has to be there as well. It's spelling out what you're doing. And again, this part with the arrows, have I said that enough? Okay, some of you guys are watching Netflix and you're not paying attention, and then you're going to be emailing me later, and I'm going to get upset, and we're all going to get upset, okay? But the part of the arrows is telling the reader why you used the t-test, okay? That should say, really it, but, why you used the t-test. It's telling the reader, spelling it out for them, that basically you know what you're doing, that you picked the right analysis. Because if you say a paired t-test was performed to compare, BMI in a group of women compared to another group of men, that's the wrong test, okay? So yeah, you've got to tell them, what you did and why you did it, okay? So that's the first sentence, and that's it. See how we did that all in one sentence? Cool, huh? Right? So not a lot of talking. All right, good. This second sentence also needs to be there. It has to be there. This is the part where you're talking about the actual significance of the difference, okay? This is where you start talking about the p-value, okay? Yeah, you're giving the p-value you found. And again, this can be done in one sentence. I can't say this enough. Nobody wants to hear you talk, okay, a lot. Not in this results section, okay? What you think is not important here, okay? I mean, I know that's kind of mind-blowing, but here, like, you're just presenting the facts. Nobody wants to hear you talk more than necessary. And here's an example of the second sentence in the results section, okay? The paired t-test, you could just say it if you wanted to, but the paired t-test showed that there was not a significant, again, this is if we're talking about not significant difference, that there was not a significant difference between the groups. And here's the p-value. Okay, so yeah, here's the translation on what it showed, the real words translation. And here's the p-value taken from the results. So again, here's the real words. This is what it showed, and this is the statistical value. So you're putting English words. You're putting words to a number. All right, and that's it. So that's the second sentence, guys. It's real easy. So far we've written 2 sentences. But what about word count? Don't do that. This is not 11th grade English. And I took 11th grade English. I get it, 5-paragraph essays, all that stuff. Throw that out. I'm not asking for a 5-paragraph essay. Not everything has to be talked about with a 5-paragraph essay where you make up 3/4 of it. Okay? Stop making stuff up. As a matter of fact, if you talk a whole lot in this, I'm probably going to grade you down because you're doing that unnecessarily. Okay? So that's it. Okay, the third and the fourth sentence, and maybe the fourth. A lot of times there's not even a fourth. So this is, really, you could probably just say third. All right. Break down the comparison of the actual group averages themselves. And some of you guys, when you got into ANOVA, you completely just went off the deep end. I don't know where you were going. I mean, it's still just comparing averages, guys. It's still comparing averages. So yeah. And again, we're talking about not significantly different here. So if they're not significantly different, you still state that. And you also want to give the mean and the standard deviation for each group that you're comparing in the t-test, which would be just 2 groups. Okay, so you're going to give one mean and one standard deviation, and then another mean and another standard deviation. And here's an example of how you compare the averages in a results section if there's no significant difference. Okay, so yeah, this is what we're talking about here, is no sig diff. Okay. Okay, sorry, that's a long way to go for that, but the average score on an assessment of knowledge of exercise physiology was no greater at the second assessment than the average score at the first assessment. And here's the means and standard deviations. Okay, so look, here's one of the groups and the standard deviation. So this green arrow here is basically, the group. Actually, we said the second one first. That's okay. And there's the mean and standard deviation for them. Okay, right here. That M is the mean and the SD is the standard deviation. Okay. Here's the other group. Okay. So mean and standard deviations. All right. So here's the second group, or well, actually the first, but it's the other. Okay. Right here. Okay. So again, do I need to run that back? Let's run it back so y'all can all get it. Here is here is the first group right here. Okay. And here's the second group right there. First group, second group. And that's all we're going to talk about is, you're just talking about how they are different or not. Okay. Here we're telling you that they are not different because we have a no sig diff here. Okay, guys, we're still stating for the reader that there's no significant difference here. We've given the p-value, but now we're kind of giving the comparison of the groups itself or themselves. Okay, and that's it. And then finally, so that's the third sentence, 3 sentences. Does it get any harder? Not really. Okay. Many results sections can end up with kind of a concluding statement that basically kind of rewords the whole thing. And it's just kind of this brief statement that wraps it up, the numbers you've just finished stating. And again, do not talk too much. That's for later on. That's not for results section. That's for a discussion section. That's, you don't do that here. And I'm not asking you to do a discussion section here. I don't want to read that. I don't, you don't want to write it. So don't do this. Do not do this. That's in 4010. Okay. Don't do that here. Okay. So here's an example of the last sentence. Students did not demonstrate an increase in overall knowledge about exercise physiology from the start of the semester to the end of the semester. Okay, so that's really just kind of wrapping it up in this kind of real words kind of format, and you're kind of breaking it down in real words for the reader. It's kind of like a bridge over to the discussion section. Sometimes people don't even do this part, but I'm going to ask y'all to do that for this assignment. So here's the whole thing put together. And this is, I mean, look, you can start a clock. I'll start a clock and we'll count how long it takes me to read this slowly. A paired t-test was performed to determine whether there was any change in overall knowledge about exercise physiology from the beginning of a semester to the end. The paired t-test showed that there was that should say no significant difference. Okay, no significant difference between the groups, because here's your p-value. The average score on an assessment of knowledge of exercise physiology was no greater at the second assessment than the average score at the first assessment. Students did not demonstrate an increase in overall knowledge about exercise physiology from the start of the semester to the end of the semester. So that took me about 25 seconds, and that was including kind of doing this little markup right here. Okay, so again, first sentence, here's what you did. Here's why you did it. Second sentence, here's what it showed, basically. And here's the number behind that, the technical stuff. Third sentence, here's one group and mean and standard deviation. Here's the other group, mean and standard deviation. And then here's kind of the wrap-up statement, okay? All right. And that's it, guys. That's the whole results section right there. Yeah, but what about, don't we need to, no. Well, but you gave us, like, when we get this output, we have this F value, but like, no. Yeah, but do we need to put their ages and stuff? Like, we got that, we took it. No. Well, what about our opinion? No. No. Don't do that. Okay? That you're not, nobody wants to hear you talk here. Just give the results, and that's it. Nobody wants to hear you go on and on about stuff. Okay, trust me, they don't. This is not word count. This is not word count. This is y'all. I think a lot of y'all, like, the first thing you ask yourself, I hear it all the time. I've done it. Well, how long does this need to be? It needs to be until you convey the information. And for the purposes of a results section, you just need to convey the results, and that's it. It's boring. It's the shortest section in an entire research writing. Okay. So some rules to follow. Keep it simple. Okay, yeah. For the 4th time, or 15th time, keep it simple. Nobody wants to hear you talk about what you did. Don't do this. Just give the data. Don't include what you don't need to. So yeah, you don't include their age or their gender or their or their sex. You don't include where they grew up. You don't include, unless it's pertinent to what you're talking about, you don't include it. Okay. You do not give opinions, and you sure as heck don't make crazy conclusions. You don't do that. This is not the place to do that. You just give the data. This is not the place to give any kind of opinion. Nobody cares here, especially what you think. And please don't do it anything other than give the data in the format I suggested. Guys, this assignment is supposed to be easy, and still some of you guys will screw it up. I figured out that the reason why some of y'all mess it up is you don't even read my instructions. I don't know why. And then you're out on your own, and it's like completely off base. Okay. So don't do anything other than just give the data in the format I suggested. Okay. So that's it. Today is Wednesday, April 22nd. It's like 10 till 8. I'm going to post this, and hopefully this will help you with this little results section write-up that we're doing right here at the very end, okay? I know it's been a goofy semester. We're all worn out, we're all tired, and we're all almost done with this. And hopefully we can start moving on to something, getting more closer to normal. I hope you guys are doing all right. Um, it's been a grind, but a lot of you have hung in really well, and I'm proud of you. Please email me. Please reach out, message me, whatever you need, and I'll see if I can help you out. Okay. And this assignment is due for the last time. This will be on the instructions, but it's due anytime between now and 11:59 on Wednesday, May the 6th, I believe. Yes, that's correct. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Well, I think so. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Maybe that's Tuesday, May the 6th. I got to figure that out. Okay, but regardless, the instructions will be on the date will be on the instructions. Okay, have a good one. Hope to see you soon.